tafsir that is really not popular to the people. I don't understand that. Maybe it's a continuation. So how do you combine those statements of the scholars who have different statements of her, or tafsir that is really not popular to the people? We don't consider the people when we talk about what's the truth, right? Most of the time, people are ignorant, right? And it's not just the common people, and we are the common people, but that's why we learn. So we can recognize that, you know what, this is how the Salaf understood these ayat, right? When we come across, for example, we're going to come across Iblis. Was he an angel or not? Right? I believe Iblis was an angel. Now, that's not the common tafsir of the people. But when we come across that tafsir, we're going to see that, you know what, it supports it. And how many of the Salaf had that view, even though that's not the common tafsir of the people. So either Iblis was an angel. This is an example of tavad. Either he was an angel or he wasn't. It can't be both. And so if you say that he's not an angel, and that's the more common tafsir per se, with a lot of the people, especially those who maybe not have studied, they'll say, yes, he wasn't an angel. They read Tafsir ibn Kathir in English or something like that. They'll say, yes, Iblis was not an angel. And this is the opinion of a lot of our contemporary scholars. But then you'll see that a lot of the Salaf held the view that he was an angel. And so in that circumstance, what do? You try to find, you use your tools, those resources. And this goes back to Usul al-Fiqh, Usul al-Tafsir, Muqaddimat al-Tafsir, right there. And there's books written in this issue on how do you determine the tafsir, and then you worship Allah based on whichever one you think is stronger. And in that circumstance where there's a contradiction, where you can't have it both ways, then you try to follow which one you think is the truth. And when you're teaching, if you've done everything correctly and you follow the right methodology and you have your salaf that you can refer back to in that topic, then feel free to talk about it. Feel free to tell somebody that I believe that Iblis was an angel. And if they disagree with you, then ask them why. Ask them where their evidence is. Ask them where their proof is. And like this, it raises the level of everybody. And it removes the people from that jumud, that rigidness in education, to where it's like, well, I was told this, so it must be right. Or even Sheikh so-and-so said this, so it must be right. And with all due respect to Sheikh so-and-so, and with all love and honor, when the Sheikh is a Salafi Sheikh, the people of knowledge, their statements of proof is sought for it. Their statements are not proof. And so whatever Sheikh that you can mention in this day and age, whether it be from the highest of them like Sheikh bin Baz and Uthaymeen and Albani rahimahumullah ta'ala, wa baraka fihim, without a doubt, there is a Sheikh more prominent and better than them who, whatever opinion they had, probably had a different opinion at some point in time. And maybe not one Sheikh had every opinion different. But for example, if you say that Uthaymeen said the tafsir of this ayat is this, and I show you that Tabari said the tafsir of this ayat is that, and they disagreed, right? Tabari and Uthaymeen, there's no comparison. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, there's no comparison with him to Uthaymeen, rahimahumullah. But at the same point in time, just because Tabari is in the stage and the level that he is in scholarship and of the Salaf, it doesn't mean that he's right. Uthaymeen could still be right. And just because Uthaymeen is who he is of level and scholarship and knowledge in our day and age and our love for him, doesn't mean that he's right. Tabari could have been right. And so in those circumstances, we look and we follow the evidence. And like this, when we follow it with this approach and we educate ourselves and others, that rigidness that we used to criticize the followers of the madhahib, the blind followers of the madhahib, well, Abu Hanifa, Ahmed Malik said, when we would tell them the Prophet said, like this will raise everybody's level. But that is a small synopsis of how we approach these issues. And Allah knows best. The shaitan was amongst those angels, but he wasn't one. Okay, what is your proof? You're saying this, but this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Have you done all of this research? Have you heard what the other people said? Or are you just saying a statement that you heard from a scholar? Because Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Ibn Abbas said Iblis was an angel. And so this is what we're talking about. And it's no need to be in a rush. And I don't mean this to be offensive, but the point of it is that that's exactly what we're talking about. It's okay if you believe that, or it's okay if you don't know, so you're going to tell me what the sheikh that you follow said. Alhamdulillah. But if the question is, how do we combine these statements of the scholars when they have different statements, or how do we teach an opinion that is less popular? The answer is go back to the text, go back to the proof. And just because you might have adopted this view, or you might be following somebody who's adopted this view, it doesn't necessarily mean that that view is correct. We all know our levels and our stages. Right now, we're learning. And so we say, this is what I've learned so far. I've learned that Iblis was amongst the angels, but he wasn't an angel. And I've learned that the jinn weren't angels, and that the istithna in this ayat is istithna munqati'. It's an exception. Like if I say all of the boys came except Fatima. Fatima isn't a boy, but she was included amongst them because she was with them. And in Arabic, this is called istithna al-munqati'. And the jinn were created from a different substance than the angels were created from. The angels were created from a nur, and the jinn were created from a fire. And the angels can't disobey Allah while the jinn can. And so all of these reasons are why I say Iblis wasn't an angel. I say, alhamdulillah, mashallah. But if somebody comes to you and says, well, wait, Allah says, وَجَعَلُوا بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْجِنَّةِ نَسَبًا, and they make between him and between the jinn familial ties, and the jinn that are being referred to in this ayat are the malaika, according to the tafsir. And likewise, the word jinn can include the malaika. And as far as your statement that the jinn were created from a different substance, then when do we ever say that all of the malaika were created from one substance? That ayat says that Allah created the angels from light, and he created the jinn from a smokeless fire, but the jinn are a group of angels. And this particular group of angels has free will. And if somebody says, well, how could an angel have free will? I never experienced that before. We say, well, what about Harut and Marut? They were given free will according to the tafsir. And like this was the tafsir of Ibn Abbas. And the foundation in an exception is that you don't exclude something except that it's from it. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَجْمَعُونَ إِلَّا Iblis. And so Iblis was included amongst the angels, so he must be one of them. And my default position is Ibn Abbas said it. There's no disagreement amongst the Sahaba that we know of. I default to their side when I choose an opinion. And Ibn Abbas was not one who took from Bani Israel. If somebody says that, then how do you see what I'm saying? So these are just different positions that an individual might have. And the question is, how do we approach them? We approach them with knowledge. We approach them with the evidence. We don't approach them with simply so-and-so said. And once we do that, then we can feel confident in teaching. We can feel confident in conveying an opinion. Until then, we shouldn't. Because if I convey an opinion and I say Iblis for sure wasn't an angel, then I'm saying that Allah said Iblis wasn't an angel. And am I brave enough to make this claim about what Allah said and what Allah meant? And whoever talks about the Quran with their opinion, even if they're right, they're wrong. And so this is what the answer to that question is that we need to approach these things with knowledge. Now, Tafsir and Uthaymeen lived in different time frames. The time frames have nothing to do with the haqq. Allah sent down the Quran to be for all times. And so, yes, the times that we live in have subtleties that are different. But from the things that need to be understood is that the people of those times almost by default knew about Islam better than we did. So you'd be hard pressed, and it's not impossible, except in the Qurun al-Mufaddala. But At-Tabari wasn't from the Qurun al-Mufaddala. So you that's not Uthaymeen could be better in the sight of Allah than At-Tabari. But when we look at the knowledge of At-Tabari and we look at the knowledge of Uthaymeen, with our love for Uthaymeen, I don't think I love any man during our day and age that the way that I loved Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala. It's not a disrespect of him. I didn't cry when my dad died. I didn't cry when my grandfather died. I cried when Uthaymeen died, right? We have love for them. And it's not a disrespect to say Uthaymeen is not Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, right? Uthaymeen didn't think he was Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. And to be honest, with all due respect, only somebody who was foolish would think that Uthaymeen was on the level of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Imam, he had his own madhab. He was but this comes because we don't know who these people are. And because we're disconnected from them, and it has afflicted us in spite of ourselves, a lot of the times, that which has afflicted the people that you used to find us criticizing. So even though you might find us those who don't follow the four madhabs, you find us people who follow the madhab of Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, or the madhab of Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, as if it is wahi. And who was better, Imam Ahmed or Abu Hanifa or Uthaymeen? Right? There's no comparison. And so, but that doesn't mean just because Abu Hanifa was part of the Qurun al-Mufaddala or Imam Ahmed was Imam Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that Imam Ahmed has to be right all the time, and that Uthaymeen can't be right about something. We follow the haqq, and that's it. The people are known by way of the truth. The truth isn't known by way of the people. And so these are the fundamentals that we build upon. These are the fundamentals of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, with love for all of them. Because Uthaymeen took from somebody who took from somebody who took from somebody who took from somebody, all the way back to Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, who took from somebody who took from somebody who took from Imam Ahmed, who took from somebody who took from somebody who took from Ibn Abbas. And like this. So there's like the main thing is just to understand that we have to get a better perception of how to approach Islam without these short-sighted, myopic views of, well, the scholar that I know or the sheikh that I'm affiliated with is the one. No, ya akhi, there's multiple mashayikh. There's plenty of scholars. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق. There will not cease to be a part of my nation victorious upon the truth. And so learn who the scholars are, generation by generation. Learn who the Sahaba were. Learn who the Tabi'een were. Learn who the Atba' al-Tabi'een. Learn who the A'immat al-Arba'ah. Learn who the different Imams of various madhahib were. Learn who was in the 5th century, the 6th century. Learn who the Mujaddidun. Learn who were the people who renewed the religion. Learn who the scholars of contemporary times were. Learn who the scholars of today are. And like this, you'll have a good resource to help you better understand the different and varying texts and opinions that you come across. And affiliate yourself with the scholars of today. They'll tell you the same information. That what most of us was taught, most of us heard, right? Like I said, that's a conversation of where are you getting your information from? Yes, you are right, brother. I'm just saying that it's what most of us was taught and heard. And like I said, it just goes back to where do we get our information from? Every imam had his own madhab, but not everybody's an imam, right? This term imam becomes loosely used, right? The same way sheikh, the same way alim, the same way alama. These terms nowadays, a lot of times, some people might misrepresent them, right? When I like a sheikh and he agrees with my position, I call him the alama. And then tomorrow, when he disagrees or has something wrong, I act like he was never anything, right? And the examples of this are very close. The examples of how these terms and the manipulation of people using these terms are very close, right? And the Salaf used to be more careful about it. And this is a statement Uthaymeen rahimahullah talks about often. Like, you have to be careful of how you throw these terms around. You talk about somebody like An-Nawawi, for example, Al-Hafiz An-Nawawi. Compare him to Sheikh Nasr al-Din, Hafidhullah. Sheikh Nasr al-Din, Hafidhullah, Muhaddith al-Asr. Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Hafidhullah, Muhaddith al-Asr. These are people who are the Muhaddith of our time. Sheikh Ali Adam al-Ethiopi. Scholars of our time. Like, now compare them to Ibn Hajar. Compare them to Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi. Compare them to al-Dhahabi, right? And we're not saying that they can't be right just because they're later. No, they can be right. And they're from the muhakkikun. They're from the people who verify and clarify and point out the subtle mistakes of different individuals from different time periods. And them being in our time period is why we should cling to them. Because I can't cling to Dhahabi. Dhahabi is dead. Ibn Hajar is dead. but I can cling to Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad. I could have, if Albani was alive, clung to Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani. When Sheikh Ali Adam was alive, I clung to Sheikh Ali Adam. And like this, you get these foundations and you recognize, well, man, I never seen anybody as thorough in their memory as Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad with regards to the people. Or I've never seen somebody who was so proficient at narrating hadith. Or I've never seen somebody who was so aware of the subtle faults. And like this, you do those same type of evaluations that the Salaf used to do with the people during their time. Anyway, أطلنا. Subhanallah. أعوذ بالله. آمين وإياكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.